Happy New Year. Welcome to At Your Library. I'm Clayton Cheever, Assistant Director at the Thomas Crane Public Library. Please join me for a look at some of the free events our library is offering this January. I hope you've enjoyed the winter holidays, however you celebrate this season, and are excited like I am for 2021 to begin. Here at the library, no contact pickup of library materials by appointment continues at our main library at 40 Washington Street. Our to-go service has been wildly popular, averaging more than 100 pickup appointments a day. Do you need to print something and you don't have a printer at home? Use our TCPL to-go print service to get up to 20 free printed pages per week for pickup at the main library or at our Adams Shore or Wollaston branches. Simply email documents to QUPRINT, that's QUPrint, at ocln.org and wait for an email response letting you know they're ready for pickup. Speaking of our Adams Shore and Wollaston branches, we are now providing modified services at both of these locations from Monday through Thursday from 1 to 5 p.m. No contact holds pickup is available at the Wollaston branch entrance. Express browsing, holds pickup, and touchless self-serve checkout are available in the Adams Shore branch lobby. Place holds in the online catalog or complete an online request form and select Adams Shore or Wollaston as your pickup location for books, DVDs, CDs, and other items. You can also simply call 617-376-1300 and use extension 2 to request materials. No appointments are required at either branch once your items are ready for pickup. In addition to the services I just mentioned, librarians are available to answer your reference questions and conduct research on your behalf. Just give us a call at 617-376-1300 and use extension 3, or you can live chat with us at thomascranelibrary.org or text us at 857-577-8275, and we'll get back to you as quickly as possible. Please note that in-person technology services at the main library have been temporarily suspended due to the current surge in COVID-19 cases. We'll restore the service as soon as it's safe to do so, in consultation with the Quincy Health Department. In this new year, do you know where your library card is? Do you have friends and family members that need a library card so they can join you in enjoying all of our free digital resources? Please let them know they can get a free e-card online right now to get access to a wealth of ebooks, audiobooks, movies, music, databases, and so much more. If you're having trouble getting an e-card or accessing our materials, just contact us at 617-376-1300, extension 3, or send us an email at quref@ocln.org. I trust you know we're always open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 52 weeks a year at thomascranelibrary.org, where you can find links on how to access digital entertainment, news, and more. We're also on YouTube, where you can watch our current programs for all ages, learn about staff recommendations, and relive great programs from our past. Subscribe now and go out and find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram too. Our Facebook handle is at TCPL Library, our Twitter handle is at Thomas Crane PL, and Instagram is at TCPL Quincy. Now I'm going to tell you about some of the programs happening at the library this month. Please view our events calendar for details about our online programs for all ages. Many of our programs are now being held on Zoom. To access live programs on Zoom, we recommend you download the free app to your computer, tablet, or smartphone and join by entering the unique meeting ID, which you can find on each of the calendar entries. If you prefer, you can watch many of our programs on our YouTube channel and on Facebook Live. Most of our adult programs are also recorded and shared on YouTube for later viewing. On Thursday evening, January 7th at 7 o'clock, cookbook author and food blogger Tara Teaspoon will share her insights into how to live life deliciously.
Hi, I'm Margaret Lagerstedt, Adult Services Librarian at the Thomas Crane Public Library in Quincy, Massachusetts, and I'm so excited to introduce to you former Senior Food Editor at Martha Stewart Living for over 6 years, former Food and Entertaining Director at Ladies Home Journal, and the author and creator of 2020's Live Life Deliciously, Recipes for Busy Weekdays and Leisurely Weekends, Tara Teaspoon Bench. How are you, Tara? Thank you so much for being here.
I'm good. Thanks for having me. This is great.
So on January 7th of next year, you'll be joining us virtually to share your journey in the food industry with us and introduce your new cookbook, Live Life Deliciously. Your impressive resume in editing and food styling is truly inspiring. Should we be intimidated? For us basic home cooks, what can we expect to learn?
Well, this cookbook is definitely for foodies and beginner cooks. I wanted to share recipes that were my family favorites, recipes from all my years of cooking professionally that I love, that are my favorites. So it has something for everyone. I think there shouldn't be any intimidation. It is a book that I want people to have in their kitchens and earmark the pages. I want you to write in it. It should be your kitchen reference, and it will bring joy and great cooking to your kitchen.
What do you recommend for the home cook? Are there any like must-have kitchen tools?
Yes, in fact, I have an entire chapter at the beginning of the book about my favorite tools and my suggested tools and small appliances and things to have in the kitchen. And I will say the standout for me, the one thing I always recommend cooks have in their kitchen is a sharp chef's knife. No fun to cook with little paring knives or dull knives. You will enjoy cooking so much more with a good knife.
And you've lived on both coasts and in New York City, the culinary capital. What flavors are you bringing to the table with us? What inspiration and your cooking do you take from your location?
You know, living in New York City has inspired me so much with my cooking and recipe development. I think eating at some of the most delicious, wonderful restaurants in the country and the world, as well as finding ethnic flavors and, you know, little hole-in-the-wall places in Queens, New York, or, you know, in Chinatown, things like that, that I have been able to experience in this wonderful city, have really inspired the recipes in my book. I use a lot of global flavors, and what's great is ingredients, curry paste, sauces, chili sauces are all so accessible to the home cook now that I really wanted to bring some of those flavors and that inspiration from living in New York City to my book and the recipes.
Now, do you have a favorite holiday to cook for?
Oh, you know, I love cooking for holidays, period, because I love gathering people around food. I love enjoying those special moments. I think holiday cooking especially brings memories. Food can create those memories, those happy times. And I have to say, I think Thanksgiving is my favorite food holiday. But coming up, I would say we've got Easter and summer barbecues, things like that. I can't rule any of them out, but they're all fun to gather and cook new food, cook family favorites. I love it.
Now, especially in these times of confinement, I think more people are taking to the kitchen. Do you have any hot tip, any advice for the new cook or the experimental cook?
You know, we are cooking more, and I think people who weren't used to cooking as much are now home making almost every meal themselves. And so definitely I want to encourage getting out of the same old ruts that we fall into for weeknight cooking, for, you know, our comfort foods. We really want to bring those happy moments into our kitchen, into our home. And one of the chapters in my book is really helpful in this way. I love sharing recipes that you can use multiple ways or for different meals. So you might make a roast chicken and use it for 2 or 3 different meals, really shaking up that weeknight rut that we sometimes get into, that we're tired of cooking the same old thing, tired of eating the same old thing. And it just brings new life into that sometimes task that we get to do every week, every day.
And what would you like people to take away from sharing the kitchen with you?
You know, I would love them to take away that sense of enjoyment. That cooking doesn't need to be a chore. It can be something creative, some sort of an outlet, and it's a gathering tool. So those are the things that I really want to encourage people to use food to connect with others, to connect themselves, their artistic side, their creative side. And I think there's a lot of fulfillment that will come with that.
And I have to ask, what are you reading currently? Any recommended reads?
Oh, goodness. You know, I mostly read cookbooks and things like that. So I would say one of my favorites that I just bought is by Tegan Gerard, Half-Baked Harvests. And she has a new cookbook out, and I love seeing what other foodies are doing and creating, and that's what I have my nose in right now.
Well, you have us so excited to learn more about cooking and creating a recipe book with you in January when we'll see you again live here, Thomas Crane Library. And thank you so much.
Thank you.
On the second and fourth Tuesday mornings, January 12th and 26th, we're continuing our series of programs about falls prevention and stress management for the aging adult. You can watch recordings of past programs in this series on our YouTube page. So I'm talking today with Debbie and Katie, Falls Prevention and Stress Management for the Aging Adult program at the library. We've been doing them on Tuesdays, and we have some exciting ones coming up. And Katie is going to be our guest at one of the ones happening in January. Debbie, why don't you do us the honors of introducing folks who haven't made it to any of your programs so far, and then introducing us to Katie.
All right, wonderful. Well, first of all, thank you again, Clayton, for allowing me to be able to do my work through the Quincy Public Library and QATV. My name is Debbie Lynn Toomey. For those of you who don't know, I work at Tufts Medical Center in our Level 1 trauma department, and my job is to keep people from ending up in the trauma center. So I do a lot of injury prevention work. I'm the injury prevention coordinator, and I do a lot of education out in the community and outreach so that people are more mindful and also reminded to just take extra care of themselves and their environment. So that way they're less likely to come in with unintentional injuries. And so the Aging Strong, the falls prevention, stress management program that I started back at the end of September is going to move forward. And in January and February, we'll be doing more programs. And in both months, we've switched the days from the first and third Tuesday to the second and fourth Tuesday of each month. And it'll be from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. And from time to time, I will invite some guests so that way we could learn from some other experts about ways to reduce stress and also prevent any falls. So in January 26th, I'm very excited to be able to invite my colleague from Beth Israel. Her name is Katie Kowalski, and she basically does what I do, but from a different hospital. So Katie, please introduce yourself and share with us what you're going to be talking about on January 26th.
Sure. Thank you both for having me. As Debbie said, my name is Katie Kowalski. I am the Injury Prevention Coordinator at Beth Israel Deaconess Medical Center. And I am so excited to be talking about falls prevention. So I am the chapter director for our chapter of Think First, which is a National Injury Prevention Foundation. And so I will be doing part of Think First for falls prevention. Typically, it's a 2-hour program, but because the program that you're doing, Debbie, is only an hour, we're going to do an abridged version. So we're going to address things such as fear of falling, an overview of the brain, safety inside the home, community safety, talking with your physician, as well as some resources and mindfulness.
Are these programs that, when you've done this program before, do you do them for anybody? We're obviously, we're talking about doing them for the aging adult. Hopefully all of us that are adults are aging, otherwise there's a serious problem. But I think we're especially thinking about folks that are, have been aging for longer than others, and for people who are caring for those folks. Is that accurate?
Yeah, typically the programs that I do are for folks who are around like 65 or so and older. But, I think everyone should be practicing some sort of falls prevention, even if it's just the home safety or making sure that you stay active.
In these days, with the pandemic and everybody is at home, I think, that's very sound advice and things that we can all benefit from. It can be hard to stay active. So I know I've learned a lot just listening to Debbie and the various programs, and just kind of these reminders are very helpful. So I'm really looking forward to what you bring in this Think First approach. So
I believe it's very important, especially it's good for people who are 65 and up, but also their children or people who live with them. Last night, my sisters and I were just kind of talking about what to get for our parents. And we said, let's get one of those portable light bicycle. So when they're watching TV, they could do that. And part of the conversation was, okay, is it heavy? Is it too heavy for our aging parents to move? Where should it be located? Well, is it a trip hazard? Because we're trying to make them stronger and healthier, but is it a trip hazard? So these are different factors that people who live with or, take care of their aging parents need to consider.
Right. And I think that, everyone has the best intentions in mind, but doing things can cause unintentional harm. So like you were saying, if the bike is too heavy, then that can pose a risk for like overexertion or even a tripping hazard if they're unable to move it.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds like this is also some of those like kind of, I've seen, and had friends, I've even thought about it myself, the couch to 5K approach. So that, just because you want to be able to do something means you may need to take some steps to get there. Just jumping right into something that may be, exhausting is a great, recipe for disaster. Whether it's, actual injury or it could be just, you burn out. It's too hard to try it first and you overwhelm yourself and you say, okay, this is not for me. I just have to stop. It's always a lot better to do these in steps that are manageable so that you can, be kind to yourself as you're making yourself stronger.
Absolutely. And some of the other programs that I offer, Debbie and I are both instructors for Tai Chi Chuan, Moving for Better Balance. I'm also a Matter of Balance instructor. And those programs can seem very, very intimidating because of the exercise component. But the reality is we start very slow. And so we build up as the participants' tolerance is able to.
So this is really exciting, learning all about, thinking first and all the people it could help. And I hope that we can have you back at some point in the future. Maybe we can do, instead of doing a super abbreviated piece, we can take our time with this. It's obviously one of the things we're encouraging people to do is to think and not be so rushed as we do things. So I would love it, Katie, if you could, do some for us here at this next one, and we'll talk with Debbie and maybe we can find a way to invite you back. How does that sound?
Absolutely. That sounds great.
Wow, that's
Awesome.
wonderful.
That's
I love
great.
it. Wonderful.
Wonderful. Well, I'm so excited to have Debbie continue to do this. I know that this is a program that's great for people to join when we do it live here on Zoom. But a lot of folks I know can benefit. They can share this with people at a time that really works within their own schedules. So, we'll be recording these programs and we're making them available on QATV. We are also, they're available on our YouTube channel. So that really after the fact, people can tune back in and gain from these. There's a lot of times, maybe you're just not in the right headspace when it first comes, or that it's inconvenient, or making breakfast, or whatever it is that's happening at the time that the program's live, or even the first time you watch it recorded. So the beauty of having things always on demand, these will be on demand. And I really appreciate that and your willingness to contribute and just share that with your community, all your knowledge. So Katie, Debbie, thank you so much. I hope that together we can all live stronger, more mindful and enjoyable lives. So I really appreciate your contribution so that we can do that. Thank you.
Right.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Clayton. Thank you, Katie.
Did you make any New Year's resolutions to live healthier? I think we can all appreciate the need to rest, relax, and unwind. And I'm excited to help bring a 6-part series of restorative yoga to you, presented by Quincy's own Christine Way Cotter on Tuesday evenings at 7, starting on January 12th. Talking today with Christine Way Cotter, who's going to be leading a 6-part series all about restorative yoga and yoga nidra. If you don't know what that means, please check out our conversation and you'll learn a lot about it. And then join us on Tuesday nights. We'll be doing this on 6 consecutive Tuesday evenings, starting on January 12th at 7 o'clock. We'll be doing it live on Zoom, and we'll be broadcasting it on YouTube and Facebook. I hope you'll join us. I look forward to seeing you there.
I've done yoga a couple times, and I'm familiar with the idea of yoga. I know there's a lot of different types, and I know that you've been practicing yoga for more than a week or two. You've been doing it for quite some time, and so I won't ask you to tell us exactly how long you've been doing it, but maybe you can give us a sense. I know that I was reading that list of all the different types that you've taught, and I'm sure you studied even more. Tell me a little bit about how you got interested in the first place in yoga. I'd love to know that.
My interest in yoga started back in the early 90s,
Okay.
when I first started to do massage therapy. And I found that massage therapy was really taxing to my body, so I wanted to do something to balance that out. So a friend suggested to try a yoga class. So I did, and I really just fell in love with the practice. And then a couple of years later, in 1999, I went out to the Kripalu Center in Lenox, Mass, and did my training there. And so I've been teaching yoga for 19, almost 20 years.
Wow. Well, I wasn't going to ask because I wouldn't. That's an awesome experience. So your practice yoga, just like we practice everything else. How frequently do you practice? Is this a daily thing? Is it something where you practice but you finally get it right and so you can stop, or it's a lifelong practice?
It's a lifelong journey. It's not just about doing postures on the mat. It's about a philosophy about being present, and about every day what you're doing is to try to make it special. So if you're just like washing your dishes, like try to be present with that part of your life. So like you take your yoga practice off the mat in your daily life, no matter what you're doing, is to try to make it so that you're feeling more balanced. So as far as practicing yoga and doing postures and meditation, I teach a few classes a week and I do yoga with my students. So that's part of my practice. But other than that, I am doing some yoga at home, even if it's just for like a couple minutes. If I just sit and meditate for like 10 minutes, that's part of my yoga practice. Or if I find myself just needing a couple of stretches during the day. But it depends on where I am in my life and when I'm doing yoga. Sometimes I might do yoga every day and I might do an hour, or some days I might skip a few days. I might do 20 minutes, if I might just need a few stretches. So it changes. I wouldn't say that I do, I get up every day at 7 o'clock and do yoga for an hour every day at that time. So I kind of just weave it into my life and in my practice and in the way I live. So
of you can do like intentional, like really focused yoga, but it sounds like you can also you're always doing yoga if you're really trying to practice mindfulness. And if you take the practice at its core, everything we do, all the ways we walk, everything, all the ways we act could have a yoga component to them. So it's when are you not practicing, I guess? Is that kind of the way you feel it? Or
Right. And I'm practicing all the time because the most important thing is accessing your breath. They call it the prana, the life force. So, when you're feeling stressed and tense, the first thing we do is we might take a deep breath and sigh a breath out. And, so I find that when I feel anxious, sometimes I'll know that my breath will help to relieve that by just taking a deep breath and just by focusing on my sensation in my body, my senses, feel where I am, try to let go of the thinking mind and notice what's in my surroundings, what's the temperature in the room, what do I smell, what do I see, what do I feel, what do I hear, to take me back and be present in my body. And the breath will help as a vehicle that will help do that, because you can feel your breath, you can hear your breath, and then your mind can focus on, when you're doing some breathing, you can count the breath, so your mind is focused on that. So it really does help to bring you into the moment, is the breath. So yoga for me helped me a lot, just to be present and learning to access more of the life force of the breath.
And remembering to breathe is always a good idea. If you forget to breathe, you can only go.
We don't forget to breathe, but sometimes we don't breathe the right way. We breathe really shallow. We breathe from our chest, and we're not breathing from the belly. So when we breathe, we want to inhale. We want the belly to soften, like a bellows or balloon. We want it to fill it out. And then we want to feel the breath hug the ribs and then expand to the chest. And sometimes we're just taking little breaths and we're not realizing what we're doing. But once you know how to do a deep breath and you can access that, it really helps to calm your nervous system and relax you. That's what restorative yoga is all about, is about slowing yoga down, really slowing it down, because you're holding poses for 5 minutes and you're in a pose and you're able to relax. So your body's able to relax more. So it helps the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the rest and the digest. It helps to restore your body because you slow down the breath. You slow down, you slow everything down, because some yoga can be a lot of yoga today is a lot of vinyasa yoga, where you're doing one pose to the next pose and you're linking the breath with the poses, but it's fast. It's more of a workout. Yeah. This is more passive stretching. where you're lying in a pose and holding, and you're feeling your muscles just relax, and you're focusing more on lengthening the breath and holding rather than moving and going fast.
The last class of kind of similar to this that I think I did was a Pilates class, which is very different. I found it really, I thought I could go in and I was in decent shape when I went in, but I went into like a kind of an intermediate Pilates class and it kicked my butt because it was intense and fast. It sounds like the kind of yoga we're talking about everybody can do. You're going to walk me through a pose here in a minute. But people who are coming and attending these sessions, they don't need to be worried about, how much yoga they've done or what kind of shape that they're in. This is something that's going to work for everybody, and it's really meant to be adaptive and speak.
It is, because it's only a few poses, and it's really, meditation and motion that we're moving really slow. So I will do, a couple of gentle stretches before we lie in a pose. And when we transition from one pose to the next, we might just do a little bit of movement, and then we'll be in stillness. And I encourage my students, if they felt like a little antsy in the pose, just try to breathe through it. And if you absolutely need to move and adjust, then you need to listen to your body. But the idea is that you're stretching, but you don't want to feel like you're really stretching, so it's so passive that you don't even realize that you're even doing yoga in a way, right? Because it's so gentle, because you're allowing props of pillows and blankets to support you. So it's supported, and it's so restorative for your mind and your body. It's my favorite practice.
Some people like to do this.
And Yoga Nidra.
I'm sorry, you were
Excuse
saying.
me?
You were saying Yoga Nidra?
So the Yoga Nidra part of it is, once we're in our last pose of Shavasana, relaxation, I'll do a 20-minute visual guided meditation. And Nidra means, Yoga Nidra means yoga sleep. So it takes you into what you call your 5 states of being. So it's very, it's systematically done, where I have you do body sensing, and I have you do a breathing exercise, and I'll take you on a journey. We'll go somewhere in nature, will be the last piece. I'll have you do body sensing, where I'll say, notice your right big toe, feel your toe, and I'll take you through all your toes, so I take you through your whole body, but you don't move your body. You just think about the parts. And then I might say, notice your body warm, like you're in the sun. And then notice that your hands are cool in the snow. So I have you sense opposites, feeling heavy or light, or cold, not cold, cool or warm. It's pretty amazing practice, the Yoga Nidra. It's been scientifically studied, and they say that 20 minutes of this guided meditation can be equal to 3 hours of deep sleep, because it takes you into your state of being, where you're almost in that sleep state.
So you're saying that if I can't sleep for 6 hours, I can just do this a couple times a day, and I can pretty much skip sleeping and just binge watch Netflix. What a deal!
I don't know about that, but it's really another practice that's really calming for your nervous system. Yeah. It helps to lower your blood pressure. It helps to relax your whole body. So a lot of the stress that we have is due to we have too much going on in our mind. We're always it's that fight or flight. We're always we have, especially what's been happening in the world, we're a lot of anxiety. So, anxiety comes from the thinking mind. We have a thinking mind and we have a creative mind. So if we can slow that thinking mind down and be in our creative mind and see, the beautiful visions that I do in a meditation, it's very healing to ourselves. And it's simple, just to slow down and listen to. And when you can slow down and do a restorative practice, you can listen to your body. When you're moving fast in yoga, you're not necessarily able to listen as well as then when you're doing something slower.
Makes a lot of sense. Well, I find all this very fascinating, and I know that I could continue in this conversation for hours, but I don't want to take everybody who's watching us in that time, and the people should come to the programs, and they'll get bits of this from there too. Perhaps you'd like me to walk me through a pose really quick, so people can have a little sense of what's going to happen beyond, because it's not really going to be a lot of talking when people join these programs. It's going to be walking us through these poses you've been talking about. So shall we try something?
Yeah, so I encourage everyone that is going to practice is, you're at the comfort of your own home, is to have, if you have a mat to lay on the floor, or if not, maybe some blankets, and to have some pillows. Now I have 3 of my bed pillows, and I have 2 of some toss pillows, and I have a blanket here. So you can't have too many pillows or blankets. You want to make your nest. So one of the poses that's very restorative in just any regular general yoga practice is child's pose, and we do that pose regardless if we're doing restorative or not. But in a regular child's pose, we would do a pose, and child's pose would be, we would be here like this in a class, but for restorative, we would build up so that maybe you have sensitive knees. And, I encourage people too, if in any yoga practice, is to take care of their knees. People will sometimes bring their own blanket or an extra cushion. But I might put like a pillow by my knees, by my shins, like that, if you want to set up a pillow this way and one across. This one lengthwise here. And then I'll have another pillow here on my head. So the idea is you want to be able to feel supported. I might even have 2 pillows under my chest. So I want to be able to relax and feel like I'm sinking. Maybe you don't like to have your knees as close. You want to have them a little wider. So maybe you have some supports under your knees if your knees are a little bit wider. So you want to feel yourself supported in every way. You don't want to feel like you're struggling to relax. It has to come really easy once you can soften your body into the pillows. And once you're there, you're just going to breathe and relax and just notice the sensation and where you feel it. When you'll feel a stretch, but it's different from when you don't have the supports. You can really take time to relax into the pose a little deeper. So then we'll hold this for like 5 minutes. And then I might say, okay, let's turn our head in the other direction, and we'll turn our head. And if that doesn't feel good, I'll encourage you to find a position, maybe your arms want to come out like that. So it might just take a few minutes to adjust yourself to where you can really get into that pose where it feels good for your body, because everyone will be different. Someone might not want the 2 pillows. Someone might say, well, I want to feel my stretch a little bit more, and they might take out a pillow. But just encouraging everyone to do what feels good for them, so you can tuck it underneath the chest. You can't have too many props. So you can use just ordinary bed pillows at home to make your nest, to build it up high for you, so you can just really sink in. If you regularly practice yoga and you have your props, if you have bolsters and you have blocks, that's what we use in the studio. We have blankets, bolsters, and blocks. Unfortunately, right now we can't use any of those things in the studio. We can use some blocks, but the bolsters and the blankets I don't use now because of COVID. So, people can bring their own when they're in studio. But this is nice because now you're at home and you can, we'll do a couple of poses and take you to a guided meditation, and then, you can be ready for bed. You don't have to worry about in the cold going home and driving.
Don't have to put your
this is
foot
just
on.
really here in your living room. It's really nice and easy. And I love it. I love the restorative. People are just so relaxed and they feel so good after. And you're doing such good work for yourself and you're doing those poses. So we'll do that one. We'll do a restorative child's pose. And if someone wants to join in and didn't feel like they could do all the poses, they could just modify for themselves, say, well, I can't even be on my knees. Maybe they just go into another pose. Maybe they just lie on their back and they just rest and just be present with the class, and they can wait until I do the yoga nidra part, you know, with the guided meditation. So that could be an option too. If they didn't feel like they could get into a pose, one of the poses, they could just skip it and just, you know, just lie back and, you know, because we'll be doing this, we'll be relaxing and lying on our back. And, you know, one of the poses we do is we bring our feet together, and then we'll put pillows under the knees of the hips so that you're able to open. It's called reclining butterfly.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a really nice pose to encourage your hips to open. And you don't feel like you're struggling. You know, everything is supported to be able to just soften on its own without forcing it. So.
And before we talked about, you know, sometimes you do this with music, sometimes, you know, on Zoom, music doesn't work so well to share, but certainly we'll have people's mics muted when they're participating. So if they wanted to have some music that they find relaxing in the background, that would be a nice thing to set up.
Absolutely. I would actually encourage them to set up a nice space where they have maybe some candles lit, have some nice soft instrumental music. You know, they can play some nice, anything that they like. And it could be any kind of music, whatever relaxes you.
Yeah.
You know, just something soft in the background, and that would be great. You know, because I think the set and the setting is just as important as you know, seeing me do yoga and you doing the practice, is that you have to feel like your space is nice and clean. You know, don't have clutter around you. Try to pick a space where things are open as best you can. Have a nice candle, you know, have some nice music. And
We're going to do these and we're going to start at 7:00. Should people, you know, eat? What's the best kind of timing for eating around this? Should they wait till afterwards to eat, or do you recommend, does it really matter?
Well, it's because it's at 7:00. It might be late for people to. I mean, I don't know what people's schedules are when they eat. Some people eat later at night, so we're doing a 75-minute class.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe if they wanted to eat before, maybe they have their dinner by like 5:30 or 6.
Okay.
5. They say typically 2 hours before yoga, but we're not really doing much movement either. So I wouldn't worry about it, because we're not like jumping up, we're not jumping around,
Right.
you know? So, I mean, if you were like, you know, coming home from work and you got home at 6:30 and you need to eat, you were hungry, absolutely eat, because you don't want to like think the whole time you're relaxing that I need to eat.
Can't wait for this to get over so I can have something.
Yeah, I can't wait for this to be over so I can eat and have that a distraction. So even if you didn't want to eat a full meal, maybe you could have a snack or something. But, you know, typically in a regular yoga class, I would say, if, you know, don't eat a big, giant, heavy meal, you know, then do yoga right after. You usually want to try to digest your food. But, you know, we'll be doing poses where we'll be relaxing and where we're in that mode, we're relaxing the nervous system. That's the best way to digest your food, you know, so it might be okay.
You may want to have a nice.
Have a little bit of food, but not too much. You know, don't want to make yourself bloated, uncomfortable. That's all. I mean, you know, everyone knows their body and what they need. So,
We're at least trying to learn to know our bodies. Yeah.
You know, some people have to eat on the fly, and they have to eat when they eat. You know, so I don't want that to be a deterrent for people not coming because they feel like they need to eat. You know, so whatever they feel.
And certainly if people are, you know, if people have other people in their home, they'd like to do it together. This is a great thing to do in partnership. It's, you know, it's really nice to be able to share these experiences with folks. So I would encourage folks who, if you have a supportive partner or you know, a parent or a child with you in the house, encourage them to do it with you. I think that would be great to have as many people. That's kind of the beauty of doing these in homes, is we can reach so many more people. And people who may be skeptical, just give it a try. I bet you they'll be surprised.
Exactly. This yoga is for everybody. Everybody can do this yoga. If they don't feel comfortable even doing the restorative, they absolutely can do the yoga nidra, because all you need to do is, you don't even need to sit. You can lie down. We're going to be lying down doing yoga nidra. But if someone was uncomfortable, you know, saying, oh, I can't get on the, you know, some people might not be able to get up and off the floor. So if that's that person, then they can sit on their couch or on their chair and just as easily just listen and maybe, you know, just try to be present in the moment, wherever they are, on a chair, on the floor. I can't say what time I'll start the yoga nidra, part of it. It's hard to say how the flow is going and when I'll start that, because I could say, oh, I'm going to do yoga from 7 to 7:45, and then 7:45 we're going to do yoga nidra. So I don't, but typically the yoga nidra will be at the end of the class for about 20 minutes. So, but if people wanted to just listen for that and, just watch, they certainly could. They don't have to do it. They could just, check it out and see what's happening.
And people can join with their cameras on or with their cameras off. Obviously, if they're not comfortable inviting us into their bedroom, they don't have to have their video on.
Exactly. Don't have to have their video on at all. I teach several Zoom classes at the studio, and some people have their video off. Some people I can see, and I don't require that I see them. And it's hard to really monitor and watch everybody what they're doing on Zoom at home. That's the thing. When you're in studio, you can really walk around and see what everyone's doing, but it's really hard, in this format. But I'm just encouraging people, if something doesn't feel that, even because it's gentle or restorative, there may be an injury or something your body's not able to do. I mean, if you just had knee surgery, you're not going to want to maybe be on your knees, but you might be able to if you are kneeling on a pillow. It might be different. You might realize, oh, I can do this because I have this support, Well,
Christine, I am really excited. I'm really looking forward to these sessions. I think they're going to be very relaxing and hopefully very restorative. This is going to be a new type of yoga for me to try. I've done some other types, but never this exactly. And it's just this little bit of exposure tonight has me all the more excited. So thank you so much for coming to us and for sharing these gifts and talent that you have for this meditative practice. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome. I appreciate the opportunity to help people at home to become more relaxed and release their tension that they have, accumulated from 2020, so helping to release all of that and to give themselves a gift of themselves to feel that relaxation, that they can feel that calmness within themselves just by taking time to listen to their body and their breath, Thank you.
We certainly do need to all figure out how we can relax and release. And
yeah, such a busy world, and we have so much social media and the news, and there's so much going on in our heads that, we need to just put it away sometimes. And, this will help us to heal our bodies. Like the word disease in itself, the dis-ease, is what causes us to become sick. So if we have ease in our bodies, if we're doing restorative practices like meditation and yoga, that will help us to become healthy in our physical bodies,
Hope you've enjoyed my conversation just now with Christine Way-Cotter. She will be leading a 6-part series on restorative yoga and yoga nidra, starting on Tuesday, January 12th at 7 o'clock and continuing for 6 Tuesdays in a row at 7 o'clock. It'll be live on Zoom and on our YouTube and Facebook channels. I hope you'll join us. It's going to be quite an experience. I'm really looking forward to it. One of my favorite yoga positions has always been the tree pose, perhaps because it reminds me of some of Quincy's fabulous trees. On Thursday evening, January 21st at 7, Quincy's trees are the focus of the latest program in our ongoing series about your big backyard. I'm talking today with Maggie McKay and Chris Hayward, who are going to be joining us for a tree panel on Thursday, January 21st, starting at 7 o'clock, live on Zoom and on our YouTube and Facebook channels. You may have seen Maggie's letter recently in the Sun, and Maggie came and you approached me, I think just before that letter actually got published, and I'm so excited that we can do this program together. For folks who didn't see the letter, Maggie, can you tell us a little bit, kind of give us the executive summary of your passion for trees and what you were sharing in that letter?
Yeah. So in recent years, I've gotten interested in climate issues and came across some articles that were talking about the importance of trees for being able to suck in carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and then store it, create wood and leaves and everything, and store it. So I and then the importance of mature trees in particular. So I wrote this letter to try to get some of that across, and that's just one of the incredible things. As I was doing the research, it was like there's research showing that they can even they lower crime rates in a neighborhood, and they raise property values in a neighborhood and help with flooding and all these amazing things. So I wanted to see if other people in Quincy wanted to work on tree stuff as well to help preserve the trees and to help support Chris's work as tree warden. So that's why I wrote that letter, and yeah.
Well, I'm so glad that you did, and that you then reached out to me and have really done the legwork to bring Chris and our two other guests, Pam Templer and
Aaron Lerman.
Aaron Lerman, yeah. So Aaron Lerman and Pam Templer to join us for this panel. And I know that you're doing this, you're very active with the Quincy Climate Action Network, and so this is a QCAN co-sponsored event. And we have Chris joining us. You mentioned Chris is the new tree warden for the city of Quincy. So Chris, welcome to Quincy.
Thank you very much.
You helping care for our trees. I'm psyched to have you here, and great to introduce you to the city today.
Thank you very much. Obviously 2020 has been a really tough year. I figured by now, a year into the job, that I know a lot of people in the city. But, when you're walking around with a mask on your face and nobody really knows who you are, and you got to stay 6 feet, 10 feet away, it's like, geez, I'm not going to get to know anybody. So I kind of really enjoy getting out and educating the public and, letting them know what a tree warden does. When I first got the job 15 years ago up in Watertown, I didn't even know what a tree warden was. I thought it was
telling me that every town and city in the Commonwealth is required to have a tree warden.
Yes, under the Chapter 87 of the Massachusetts General Laws. Yeah,
that is pretty awesome. So, what do tree wardens do? Like, you are you the Lorax? Are you the Quincy's Lorax? What is it that you're up to?
Something like that. Yeah, exactly. So I'm basically the caregiver, the keeper of the trees, the publicly owned trees of the city. So we plant trees.
That's a really important distinction. Publicly owned trees are different than the wild trees, although I assume some of the wild trees are also publicly owned, but they're very different from a tree in a backyard or something.
Right. So under Chapter 87, I'm governed, and that law allows me to, create certain policies. There's regulations. There's that law to protect street trees. So it's trees within 20 feet of the right-of-way. So if you have a tree out in the middle of a park, that law doesn't necessarily cover that, but then I'm given that authority through the mayor, the city council, to make sure that those trees are maintained appropriately. So there's a law for one thing, and then there's a policy for others. We also have a private tree ordinance in the city of Quincy that says if you're going to be taking down any trees over 8 inches in diameter as part of a development project, redevelopment project, then you have to return species of trees back to the property and work through me to get that done, so that we're keeping our tree canopy in place. Granted, if you're taking down something over 8 inches, say 24 inches, we're not going to be able to plant a big tree like that, but we can get other trees in place so that maybe someday we can equal the amount of canopy that we're losing. But basically, that's what I am. I have to make sure that the trees are safe for the public. Public safety is my number one concern. So we don't want to have tree branches falling out and just a light wind, and I have to make sure of that.
I'm glad you're doing that. My wife was driving one day and a tree branch fell and smashed the front windshield of our car. That was scary. So yeah.
Quite scary. And I've been part of many things like that. And it is. And when you come upon those people, they're shocked. And the first thing is, why don't you cut down all the trees? Because now I'm afraid.
Cut them all down and pave everything. Right. It'd be so much easier.
Just pave it all. Pave it all. But there are many reasons why we have these street trees. They provide us many benefits that we'll get into in this panel discussion. But there's so many things that people aren't thinking about. A street tree is, to me, as the tree warden and the certified arborist for the city, a street tree is just as important as a utility pole, just as important as a fire hydrant, as a catch basin. But even more than that, because it does more than just that one thing that those other items are specifically known to do. So it's very important to make sure that our urban forest is healthy and providing us the benefits that we need, because if we didn't have it, we'd know we didn't have it. We'd be in trouble.
Well, thank you. I know it's super important. I'm really looking forward to you and other guests sharing kind of this value and the work that you're doing to preserve and care for these trees. I mean, Maggie, your letter really kind of impressed the great historical importance. You know, I loved the analogy of, you know, what if I told you we had this amazing machine that's been preserved for over 200 years and what an efficient job it does. And that's what these trees are doing. I mean, they really are incredible organisms that we're dependent upon for quality of life. So, and just life, period, really.
Absolutely.
Yeah. The more I learn about them, and I don't know that much, but just, you know, it just seems like they're just incredible, complex machines that can just do so much for us, and that we haven't been able to reproduce technologically. Like, if people are trying to build artificial trees, but they can do some of the things that trees can do, but they can't do all of the things that trees can do. So I feel like, you know, if we really saw these trees, if we had to buy these trees, like machines that did all these things, we wouldn't be able to afford it. So I was just thinking, like, you know, we need to really preserve the healthy trees that we have, and you know, keep growing them. So
yeah, well, that's yeah, I think you made that point very well. And I, you know, helping everybody really speak and be advocates for trees is certainly one of the benefits that I hope will come away from this event that we're doing together. I wonder, on a personal side, I think the trees are also gorgeous. I'm actually looking, and you can't see it because it's on the other side of the lens here, but I have, you know, a photograph of a tree on the wall here. I find trees are just amazing, you know, organisms as well. And I wonder if, you know, we probably won't have time to talk about this in the panel, but if both of you might share, if you have any favorite places to enjoy and appreciate trees here in the city of Quincy.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah. I haven't nailed down one spot yet, or one grove of trees, or even in a particular tree, because I'm amazed at some of the trees that I'm seeing around the city. Some of these trees are unbelievably beautiful. Sometime back, you know, 150 plus years ago, somebody had a plan in Quincy, and they planted red oaks around this city that have become monsters. And they're just, every time I come upon one, I'm just amazed at, wow, I don't think the public realizes, you know, the assets that these are, that how important they are. So I haven't really nailed down one spot, but there are many beautiful locations around the city.
That's great. Maggie, do you have any spots that you find yourself turning to? I don't like playing favorites, so I'm certainly not asking for that. But do you have any spots that really have spoken to you that you'd like to share?
Well, my next door neighbor in the backyard has this huge catalpa tree, and it is just enormous. And my son and I really just love seeing it change all through the seasons. And one time I went outside, I heard this strange sound. I looked up, there was a turkey at the very top of the tree as well. I had no idea that turkeys even got that high or could get that high, but it was just there. And then I watched it like sail down. It was so cool. But yeah, and you really do, like, when you lose trees, you really feel the loss of them. Because I know on a street near me, on Willett Street, there's an older man who would sit outside under the tree. He put some like stuffed animals in the tree branches, and he would be just like working on making bracelets and stuff out of things. He had used to work in the schools, and he would just chat with people, like, you know, as they went by. And that tree came down, I think, for some road work, and he's just not there anymore because it's just too hot in the summertime. So I feel that loss, and you know, the street is hotter, so, and kind of less beautiful. So yeah, so there's just like just things you can't really put a price on, or you know, it's just the kind of feeling of the neighborhood as well.
I know that you know, we have a lot of people who really appreciate spending time under the trees here at the library. And lots of people look at the architecture of the library and really appreciate it because it's a gorgeous building and a great tradition. Henry Hobson Richardson, who was the architect, was close friends with Frederick Law Olmsted, who designed the grounds. And just, you know, and I'm not sure if he was involved with the red oaks being planted all over the city, but there's certainly a rich history of landscape architecture, of really caring about that living environment. And trees are one of the most important, you know, elements of that environment. So
it's really exciting to think about. Not only are we appreciating the shade and all the memories that they kind of help us, really create, because, whether it's the concerts where, people are enjoying some shade underneath the summer, in the summertime, while appreciating just that heat relief, or ducking under it because there's been a rainstorm, and finding, there's just these great physical comforts, beyond just clearing the air and fixing, taking the carbon out of the atmosphere for us. And just the beauty of the city. I think both of you speaking of just the times that we spent with trees is it's really important to reflect on. And maybe in these times when we can't spend as much time indoors with each other, we can, spend some extra time. Maybe we can go on some walks with each other. We can spend some time appreciating being outside, because it's much easier to distance if we do it underneath a tree.
Yeah.
A big, a tree, a big tree trunk between us. It seems like a good way to be safe. So.
That's right.
Is there anything else you'd like to share with folks? I know this is going to be a super exciting program, and I know our other two guests are going to bring a whole bunch to it too. I'm sure the time is just going to fly by. But is there anything else that you want to say just right now when we have the opportunity to encourage people to come out and learn more about trees and what they can do to be supportive and appreciate these amazing members of our city?
If you have the opportunity to get out before this meeting and walk around the city, take a look at some of the trees around the city. Get outside of your neighborhood. Go to another neighborhood maybe you haven't seen. Park your car somewhere. Take a little walk around and see exactly what we're looking at for the forests in our city. It's definitely a prize. There's no question about it. There are many people that I know that I work in my little surrounding. When I tell them about the things that I see here in Quincy, they never picture that in their mind. So get out there and take a look around. It'll make the meeting a bunch more interesting if there's a bunch of people out there that have a new appreciation for what we've got.
No, I think that's a great idea. And the other two panelists will help us learn more about trees and their biology and their importance for the climate, and then also how to maybe get a free tree, because there are a couple neighborhoods in Quincy where the state is trying to increase the canopy. And so you can get a totally free tree in those neighborhoods, and they'll come in and plant it for you and everything. So it couldn't be easier. So we'll learn about that as well.
The beautiful thing about that state program is those trees can be planted in your yard as well.
Yeah.
Where maybe the city will eventually work towards a program like that, where we can take our street trees and plant them in your yard, which is a much better place for a tree, obviously, and still the streets would be lined and we'd have that benefit. But the state's program right now will actually allow you to plant them around your yard. You work with Aaron. Aaron's a good guy. He'll definitely attract some folks to this meeting.
That is a really great tip to know, because I'm used to free tree programs for, to plant in that parking right, by the street. But we have parts of the city where we just need to increase trees. And so, yeah, everybody should come, just even if they don't live in one of those places, maybe they'll meet somebody. That's really exciting, and it can make a beautiful city even more beautiful. I wonder too, Chris, with your expertise, if people have images of trees, if they want to take pictures of trees as they're on these walks about, do you think it would be possible, and maybe they want to do this, I don't know if we'll have time during the program, but they could share if they have questions about like how to care for a tree, or even just what kind of tree it is. I know I look at a lot of trees, and I'm not an expert. I'm not a botanist, so I don't know the names of these trees, but I certainly appreciate them. I don't know if I could identify a catalpa. I've heard that name before, but I'd have to go back up and look and remind myself.
They have enormous, I don't know about trees either, but I looked it up. They have enormous heart-shaped leaves, like really big and long pods.
Yeah.
So if there's questions, that would be a great thing for people to bring out to this program, just to learn more about the trees that are important to them.
Yeah, I can help as much as possible. A little difficult in the wintertime looking at a photograph and trying to identify a tree, but that's how, being part of it as a certified arborist, that was one of the parts of my exam. I had to identify trees by pictures, so we can do it, but in the springtime when the leaves start popping, it's a lot easier.
Maybe we can do another program this spring when we get the leaves back too. One of the appreciating the seasons is super important. So.
Yeah.
Maggie, Chris, thank you so much for your time. I'm really looking forward to this program. It's going to be great. I hope everybody comes out and joins us.
Well, thank you for inviting me in to be part of it.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
I hope you've enjoyed my conversation just now with Chris Hayward, Quincy's tree warden, and Maggie McKee from Quincy Climate Action Network. They will be joining Aaron Lerman, a DCR urban forester, and Pam Templer, a forestry researcher at BU, Boston University, for a program all about trees, happening live here on the library's Zoom platform on Thursday, January 21st at 7 o'clock. It will also be live streamed on our YouTube and Facebook channels, and I look forward to seeing you there. If you're anything like us here at the library, you've been enjoying all the lists of the best books from last year. Did you see our list of favorites? I hope you'll join us on Thursday evening, January 28th at 7, when we'll premiere a video of several of your favorite librarians talking about our favorite books that we read last year. In addition to all these programs for adults this month, we have lots for teens and younger people too. Please check our website and children's Facebook page for the most up-to-date information. Teens can join other teens to play Werewolf and Among Us online, participate in Real Talk, a youth-led forum discussing the issues most important to teens twice a month, participate in a Kahoot challenge, and more. For younger people, we also have online Among Us programs, lots of story times, music and movement with Ruby, 3 puppet hours with Lee, an hour of code for kids ages 9 to 12, and more. All online, of course. That's all for this episode of At Your Library. Hopefully, you've enjoyed learning more about some of what's happening at your library this month. If you'd like to learn more, I strongly encourage you to subscribe to our monthly newsletter, where you can also find some staff picks for some of our favorite things that we're reading, watching, and listening to. The best way to stay up to date on the latest library news is to visit thomascranelibrary.org, sign up for our monthly email newsletter, like our Facebook pages, follow us on Twitter and Instagram, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. I'm Clayton Cheever. Thank you for joining me for a look at what's happening at your library this month.